What's up? Y'all ready to get your finances on tonight? My name's Brad. I'm your group's pastor here, and without further ado, are y'all excited? Can we get some claps in here? Right? Yeah. I just wanted y'all to clap for me, not Joe. Okay, everybody give it up for Joe!
Get fired up. Thank you so much. Who came here to learn something about budgeting tonight? Budgeting. This is very loud up here. Ooh, I need to whisper. Who came to learn about getting rid of some debt? Okay. Who came to learn some stuff about investing? Investing. Who came to learn about saving money and some ways to save money in the face of inflation? Okay, that's awesome. Who came because you want your spouse to behave with money? Okay, that's awesome. So we're going to have a really good conversation. Everybody should have a booklet that looks like this. Page number, hey, I gave everybody a chance to be honest. That was awesome. I want you to look at page number 11. Page number 11 is an important page because it is an action item page. And when you find yourself thinking, I need to do that, go to page number 11 and write it down. Because tomorrow is, Wednesday. In the busyness of life, you may forget what it is you said you were going to do. So scribble it down, even if it is to pick up some milk on the way home, right? Just write it down, get it out of your mind so you can focus on what we're teaching about. I want you to turn one, oh, by the way, that is a perforated page so that you can tear it out without ruining the booklet. So feel free to ooh and ah at that. Isn't that awesome? Ooh, ah, that's awesome. And then on page number 9 is all of the scripture that I'm going to be referencing tonight. Most of the scripture that I reference is going to be located right here. And rather than you having to scribble it all down, we have it there on page 9. We're going to start filling in the blanks here in a minute on page 4. On page 4. And so let me tell you where we're going today. We're going to talk about 4 core principles that help me and my bride get our finances in alignment with God's word and moving forward. And then we're going to talk about investing. It's going to be a fun conversation. And we call that oxen, and it'll be a very moving experience. Get it? Oxen, moving. And there'll be more bad jokes. And then we're going to stop and let you ask some questions. And then we're going to move on to planning and budgeting. And when we're done with that, we're going to talk about debt. And we're going to talk about the 3 things you need to save for, how to save money. And then we're going to talk about retirement and figure out how much money you need to retire if you are planning on retiring. And if you are retired, we'll figure out if you should be. And that'll be a lot of fun. And then we'll finish with compound interest calculations and wrap it up. Sound good? Awesome. And I'm super excited about a couple things that we're going to announce here today. It's going to be great. Before we dive into all the content, I do want to share a few news and notes. First off, I wanted to share a picture of my family. Yeah. And so my wife and I, we didn't know if we could have babies because my wife had ovarian tumors when she was in junior in high school. And so we ended up with this beautiful daughter here who's 23 now. She just graduated from Anderson University in Anderson, South Carolina with a degree in graphic design. And she's employed and off our payroll. Yes! Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. And then we tried for 10 years for another baby. My wife had a recurrence of those ovarian tumors. And 16 days after we canceled our maternity insurance, that son showed up. He's turning 13 on February 6th. And then we had a surprise show up when I was 40. I had this baby girl show up, Megan. And so we have Malia, Keaton, and Megan. That's my wife, Jen. And that's our picture we had taken for Christmas. And that's one of my big whys. And I'm sure your family is one of your big whys. And so I did want to share a couple other things. There's a way for you to ask questions today. So if you came with a burning financial question, you can pull up your phone. And if you need to move to get this out of the way or whatever, scan this QR code, click on the little link, and it's going to pull up a link where you can ask your questions. And you'll know you're on the right page if it says, is Joe fired up? Okay? Is it working? Okay. And if you like somebody else's question, you can hit thumbs up on it. And when we stop and answer questions a couple times tonight, I'll look at the ones that are thumbs up the most first, okay? So ask your questions. And so I'll let you look at that. And you can go ahead and ask the question right now. That way they're loaded up in there. I see 8 people have thumbs up it. That's great. Got a couple other people. I'm going to get a couple of QR codes out of the way here to start. I promise you when we go back to the Q&A part, I will pull it back up again, okay? Now, we also offered a 90-day generosity challenge this weekend. If you did not get signed up for that, you want to be a part of that, I brought that QR code. So if you wanted to scan that and sign up for that, I'm going to put that up there for about 40 seconds here. Here's what I know. If you take the generosity challenge, I think it's going to inspire you in your walk with money. Because one of the biggest whys of all of our life is to be givers, isn't it? Like to your kids, to your family, to those you love most, to causes that we're passionate about, honoring the Lord. And so this is all about building that generosity, exercising that generosity muscle, so to speak. And it's one of my favorite things that we get to do when we budget is put giving to God first and that intentionally bless others part in our budget. We really enjoy that. I also want to tell you about our 4 books. And there's some books that are available as you leave today. That I Was Broke Now I'm Not book is foundational money stuff. It's budgeting, saving, all that stuff. Who got a book this weekend? Who got a book? That's awesome. So you can see Pastor and talk to him afterwards. We have an investing book called Oxen. The 2020 money book is about getting vision for your life. And then we have the youth book there, okay? And that's called What Everyone Should Know About Money Before They Enter the Real World. And so I encourage you with that to check that out, okay? So also, this is big news. I am fired up about this. Okay, so we created something called Fully Funded Life. And Fully Funded Life is a membership program that our team runs. It has 4 key parts. It has courses, financial education about everything you can imagine about money. And we release new content every month. It has challenges where we get good at a money skill together, like budgeting. We're in a 40-day budget challenge right now. We have a 21-day savings challenge. We have a debt payoff challenge, a buy your first stock challenge, all types of things. And then it has unlimited 30-minute coaching appointments with our certified coaches. No sales pitches, just answering your questions via Zoom appointments. And members can be signed up for 2 appointments at any given time, and they're unlimited. And then it also comes with community. That's normally $150, and Pastor has bought it for everybody at the church. There's no cost. And there's no money sales pitch, no investment sold, no insurance. And so I want you to scan this, pull it up. You can open up your account, just type in information. And at the end of this, I'll put it back up there again, okay? And you'll also be emailed it if you haven't opened your account. And so I wanted to make sure this was available to you right away. My stand is in the way. Is that Jonathan who put the stand in front that said that? I think it was Jonathan. Jonathan did it. But blame Jonathan. Feel free to move around if you need access to it, okay? Is it working? And if it's not, I can give you a direct link as well, okay? So, okay, we've had several people register there. That's great. Great. We'll talk more about that at the end. Let's talk about the content tonight. We're on page 4. Let me share the 4 core principles. I told you we were going to do QRs like crazy. So 3 QR codes is enough. Let's talk about 4 core principles. The first one, there's power in working together. If you want to prosper financially in 2023, you need partners in your life. Don't you? Who has an insurance agent? Anybody have an insurance agent? That's one of your partners, isn't it? A financial partner. And what about an investment advisor? Who has an investment advisor? Is that a partner? If you don't think that feels like a partnership, you need a different advisor, right? Because it should be a very important partner in your financial journey. What about your marriage? Is that a partnership? It should feel like a partnership. And there's power in working together because it turns out all of us as humans have blinders. We have blind spots. And having coaching in our life, having mentors, having partners is wildly important towards making sure that we understand the different aspects to money and the constantly ever-changing laws of the land as it relates to finances. There's power in working together. It's a core principle I learned. The second one I learned is to avoid the debt trap. Avoid the debt trap. Now, listen, the Bible's clear that debt's not wrong, nor is it a sin. But it does talk about debt with tones of caution. Proverbs 22:6 says what? It says that the rich rule over the poor and the borrower servant to the lender. Romans 13:8 says, let no debt remain outstanding except for the continuing debt to love one another. And so be cautious with debt. And definitely avoid having so much debt that it robs you of the ability to give, to live, to be able to pursue the dreams God's placed in your heart. The third core principle that I learned is to develop a plan for your life. Develop a plan for your life. So let me ask you a question, reminding you we're in a church and we promote honesty and integrity. Who here, you do not have your plans, hopes, and dreams written down somewhere? They're not written down. If that's you, raise your hand. Raise them, own it. Okay, take that hand down to page 11, because you should be thinking, I should do this. And you're gonna write down what? Write down my dreams. Write down my plans, hopes, and dreams. I call it plans, hopes, and dreams so you can have a PhD in your PhDs. You should major in your plans, hopes, and dreams. And here's the news flash. This may be surprising to you, but you get one life. One. And if you're not intentional, other people will be intentional with your time. And having plans, hopes, and dreams, God puts them in our heart, right? And it says, Psalm 37:4, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. God's acknowledging that he's gonna put certain desires in our heart. And as we pursue the Lord and we develop that plan for life, as we write that down, we will come to the sudden realization that it will create the reason for us to plan our finances. When you know where you're headed, to start that business, to go on that trip, to give to that worthy cause, to be able to help your kids grow up and give them great adventures. And you definitely, it's gonna, if you're taking them to Disney, that requires a financial plan. It's magical, and your money will magically disappear as well. It's awesome. And you will call it magical. And then also, if you're wanting to help them with college, does that cost money? If some of you want to be a stay-at-home parent, does that cost money? All of those are money decisions. And when you have that plan for your life, it creates the reason for you to plan your money. Because let's be honest, very few of us will do a budget just because we should do a budget. Why are you doing a budget? Just because I should, right? Most of us do a budget, why? So that we can make progress towards the dream we have in our heart. And so that's what I'm really saying here. And then the fourth thing is to put God first. The series you're in is Jesus on First. Putting God first is throughout the Bible. First fruits is mentioned in the Bible. If you like the NIV, it's mentioned there 32 times. In the ESV, it's mentioned 33 times. In the King James Version, putting God first fruits is mentioned 30 times. Thou shalt find it there 30 times. And then if you look at all editions, guess how many times the word last fruits is included? Yeah, it's 0, exactly 0. So God wants to be first. And it's just a principle throughout his word. It's a spiritual principle as well as a financial principle. So let's talk about investing. Now, I just want to stop here for a second and explain a couple things. Number one, if you're coming here today and you're just trying to get order in your life, you're trying to get a budget, you're trying to make it, month to month, you're living paycheck to paycheck. Well, I've got news for you. You're not alone. 7 out of 10 Americans live paycheck to paycheck, okay? So what I want to do here with this investing part is give you a vision for where you could be very soon, okay? And if you are in the 30% where you've moved beyond paycheck to paycheck, I want to help you really get a vision for how you can diversify, okay? And so we call it oxen. And the reason I call it oxen is it started in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 4. You can see it here on the top of page 5. And the scripture is there that says, where there are no, help me, oxen, the manger is empty, but from the strength of a what? An ox comes an abundant harvest. So show of hands here, who here would like to have abundance in your life? Anybody want abundance? Okay, hands down. Who here would like a whole bunch of emptiness? Okay. Who here, when you filled out your high school yearbook, when it said where you want to be in 30 years, you wrote down, I want to be broke, I want to declare bankruptcy 3 times, facing it a 4th time, and struggle to buy, tires for my car? Who wrote that down? No one wrote that down. But yet many people end up there. And so what I'm trying to help you with here is to understand how to have abundance. And when you look at this verse, there's 2 outcomes. You can write them down. The first one is an empty manger. And the second one is an abundant harvest. Do you see it? Where there are no oxen, there's what? The manger is empty. From the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. And so what I realized when I looked at this verse, this is back when I'm broke. I have car debt, truck debt, student loan debt. I owe my mom and dad debt, credit card debt, furniture debt, house debt, pretty much every debt you could sign up for. I was talented at it because I'm a spender and I'm good at spending. Very talented spender. And as I looked at this verse, I realized, I was like, I want abundance. And I was compelled to ask the question, what makes a difference? And I realized that the writer is saying that oxen make the difference. Do you see it? Where there are no, what? Oxen, there's an empty manger. The manger is empty, but from the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. And so as I was thinking about it, I was like, if you're farming and you have the choice of doing it by hand or with an ox, which would you choose? Yeah, I'll choose the ox, right? Because I don't care how many performance-enhancing drugs you take, you'll never be as strong as that ox, right? And by the way, when you get a team of oxen, they can not only pull twice as much, but there's a multiplicative effect when two of them are pulling, right? And by hand, how far could you get with just a hoe and a rake before your arms basically seized up and you had to set out an emergency appointment with the chiropractor? Right? How far would you get? You would have a nice small garden, right? Now watch this. This is the revelation God gave me. It doesn't mean you wouldn't have enough to eat. It just means there would be nothing left over. Does that make sense? And so here's what I'm asking you to think about. Do you have oxen in your life? A modern day farmer, they have to farm, 1,000 acres, and they use a modern day ox. What do they call that? No, they call it a John Deere tractor. It's got to be green. Ha ha. And I own several of these, and I love John Deere tractors. And can we all agree that that does more than that? Now watch this. Who does the work? The farmer or the ox? The tractor. The tractor. Who has to guide it? The farmer does, right? So there's a dual role here. And this is what I've learned through this oxen principle is it's important to understand that we don't relinquish all responsibility. We've got to go find oxen, train them up, get them pointed in the right direction, because left alone, oxen will wander around, eat all your food, and leave a lot of round presents laying around in the pasture. That's a fact. Anybody feel like that with your finances, right? And so I found out I had to have oxen, and so I realized there's two ways really to produce money. If you boil it down, there's two ways. The first way is to work equals get paid money, and don't work equals don't get paid money. It's called a job. There's not a spot to write this down. I just want you to learn this real quick. So we learned that at a young age, right? I work, I get paid money. I don't work, I don't get paid money. It's where you exchange your time, talent, energy, intellect for a paycheck. Who has earned money this way with type 1 income? Okay, we all, or many of us earn it this way. But type 2 is just as pervasive, but less people take advantage of it, and that is get paid whether or not you're working. And so I'm gonna ask you a very important question right now, maybe the most important question that I'm gonna ask tonight. And I'm dead serious about it. Do not answer this out loud, okay? Deal? Let's shake on it. Okay. This month, how much income came to your household, to your bank account, to your mailbox in the form of a check that you did not work for? Are you thinking about it? Because some of you are like, that was very easy, I quickly got there, it's zero. Let me tell you why this is important. There's a day where you're going to be tired and you are going to be forced to retire. Hear me. And if you only have type 1 income that you work for, you'll no longer be able to do that. And if you don't have type 2 income, what are you left with? Social Security, right? This is why you need oxen. And so I'm going to give a vision of practical ways this spiritual principle can be working in your life. Let's walk through some different examples. One of them is company stocks. Okay, company stocks. So who recognizes at least 5 of these companies? Who recognizes at least 5? Anybody? Okay, so we have Home Depot, we have Lowe's, which is based just north of here. We have Kroger grocery stores. We have Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. We have McDonald's, right? Target, FedEx, right? UPS. You see all these companies? Apple, Microsoft. Did you know you can own a piece of every one of those companies? Now, I don't know if it's right for you, but here's what I know, that when you own a share of a company, you become part owner of that company. That's how it works. Okay, so somebody name one of these companies and we'll look at it as a little bit of a deep dive. Somebody name one of them. Huh? Krispy Kreme? Okay. They got bought by a hedge fund, so they're back private, so I can't look at them closely. Huh? Apple. Okay, let's type in Apple. AAPL. Sorry, I did own Krispy Kreme, and then they were took private. And I'm telling you, I'm with you. The hot now sign, it's like a bug zapper for me. I will run over people going there, for real. I absolutely love it. Okay, I'm clicking on Apple, and I'm using the Schwab app, but there's Fidelity, there's Ally Invest, there's TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, and Apple stopped trading today at 4 p.m. for $135.94. So for $135.94, if you bought a share of that, you would become part owner of Apple. Are you fired up? Does that give you direct access to Tim Cook's office? When you walk in there, Cupertino, California, hey, I own this place. I own one share. Let me see. It says that there are, only 15.8 billion shares. So by owning one share for $136 or so, you become a 15.8 billionth owner of Apple. Okay? Woo, get fired up. Now, every quarter, they pay a dividend. They share profits. Does anybody know that Apple's profitable? Does that shock anyone? Okay? And they're wildly profitable, but they only share a little bit with their shareholders. They share 23 cents a quarter. That's a 0.68% dividend yield. So for every share you own, you get 23 cents. Life-changing, isn't it? This microphone is life-changing. I'll tell you that right now, falling off. So 23 cents. Can you retire on 23 cents? Is it type 1 or type 2 income? It's type 2, right? You didn't work for it. Who worked for it? Apple employees did, right? And they show up every day to work, the Apple employees do, and how are they earning income? Type 1 or type 2? Type 1. Their skill and considerable intellect is producing the profit. And they get paid a paycheck, but they're there to help the company make profit, which gets shared with the shareholders in the form of stock buybacks, dividends, and the like. Does that make sense? And if you own a mutual fund, there's a good chance your mutual fund already owns a substantial amount of Apple stock. Okay? Now, I did include in here Radio Shack. Anybody ever go to Radio Shack as a kid? Right? And they went bankrupt, right? And the reason why I share it is that it says oxen, plural. Because if you have one ox and it dies, how many are you left with? None oxen, right? And so you need a herd of oxen so that if one dies, right, then you're still able to prosper. And stocks may or may not be right for you. I'm just sharing different types of oxen that exist, common ones. And another way that gives you this important thing called diversification is mutual funds and exchange traded funds. Who recognizes 2 or 3 of these mutual fund companies? Okay, many of you own mutual funds offered by these companies, and they give you diversification. And Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. So in other words, you got to have it spread around. And a mutual fund, an average mutual fund, every one of them has a charter, and the average mutual fund has somewhere between 200 and 1,000 different investments. So if one of them goes to zero, you don't lose all your money. Make sense? Like if all your money is in one stock and that stock goes bankrupt, you're in bad shape. And Enron is one of those examples. Tyco is another one, right? Where many people had a lot of their money in that one stock, and they did some creative accounting, and all of a sudden they found themselves, unretiring because they had all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. And so many of us have access to mutual funds within our 401k or similar type of retirement account, and it gives you diversification. So these first two are very common oxen, but I wanted to share some other ones. One of them is real estate. And real estate is as old as time itself. And real estate can be an excellent investment for some people. You got to be wired right for it. But there's three major types of real estate I want to share. The first type is commercial property. So commercial property can be an office complex. It could be one of these strip malls, right? There's a strip mall right around the corner here. There's like, I saw several different like restaurants and nail salon and everything else there. Did you know somebody owns that building? Like a human. Like for real. Like for reals. And here's the question I started asking myself when I had this realization. I started saying, who is the human that owns that building? And how do I talk with them? Because believe it or not, the average person who owns one of those buildings, they started with nothing. But they got a vision, they had a passion, and now today they own it. Does that make sense? And a lot of times, where are my business owners at? You own a business. Anybody, my business owners, okay? And some of us business owners, we have to have a place. We rent a place or whatever. Eventually, what if you could own the place in which you rent from? Now you pay rent to your real estate company. Does that make sense? And if you have other offices or other retail places, you can lease those out to other people. You could call them stalls if you wanted to. And the small business that rents from you, that's their ox, right? And then they become your ox. Do you see how it can all be connected? And so I have an office building that, anybody guess what my real estate company is called? Anybody have a wild guess? Refer to your notes. Oxen Real Estate Investments, yes. And guess what my second real estate company is named? Oxen Real Estate Investments, Roman numeral number 2. Anybody want to guess what the third one's called? We have a trend here. And so I own the office building personally, and then my businesses rent from that real estate company. Does that make sense? And then we rent out the other two places to other businesses, an insurance company and a mortgage company. Make sense? And so real estate, commercial real estate. Second type is residential real estate, residential rental real estate. This could be as simple as renting out a room in your house or renting out a garage apartment or a basement apartment. It could be a single family house, a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, multi-unit apartment complexes, all the way to these big giant syndicates, of luxury apartments near big cities or next to a university. And I invest in multi-unit apartment complexes. And then, my nephew, he got all fired up. I kept taking him. I graduated from Purdue University. And when I was there, our football team was absolutely horrible. When I say horrible, let me tell you our record. It was 3-8, 3-8, 1-10, and 3-8. And Drew Brees showed up the year after I was there, and we finally started winning. And so I took in these football games, and despite our football team's poor performance, he fell in love with Purdue, ended up going to Purdue. He got much better grades in engineering than me. And so he graduated, he got his engineering degree, and he works for the Department of Defense. Somehow, I don't know what he does. Says something that's about counterfeiting. But he bought a 5-bedroom house, and he was single with no prospects. Why did he buy a 5-bedroom house? Because he knew a lot of his fellow workers were on 1-year government contracts. And those people would work 4 10-hour days, and they weren't moving their family for a 1-year contract. So they would rent a room from him. They would come in on Monday morning, drive in early, fly in early, work their 10-hour day, stay there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, and on Thursday night, they were left and went back home to their family. And so the whole weekend, he had the house to himself again. And by the time he met Laura and said, you all got to go, I'm getting married, the last one moved out on Friday, the day before he got married. He had half his house paid off and had never personally made a payment. Get fired up. Now, were the oxen silent in his house? Did he have to live with roommates? Yes. But at age 33, he and his house finished paying off their house. I think they think it was worth it. Isn't that amazing? So it's encouraging. Listen, it might require thinking differently. The third type of real estate is raw land. And I love raw land. They're not making much more of it. Have you noticed that? Right, that one island in Hawaii started making raw land about 3 years ago. Do you remember it blew up in the neighborhoods and stuff, floated in the ocean? Did you know it made 770 acres of new land? 770 acres. A square mile is 640 acres. So it was more than a square mile of land. But I hear that's a hot real estate market right now. No, it's a bad joke. Get it? Volcano? Get it? Lava? You'll lava my jokes later. But anyhow, they're not making much more land, and I particularly like land with deer and turkey infestation problems. Who's with me? Anybody? And so I own a couple farms, and I enjoy those a lot. And how do I make money on raw land? Well, I raise timber. And so I've got a logging contract on one of them right now that we're working right now. We have timber management plans. And that's one way we're making money. But also it's increasing in value every year, and that's a non-taxable event. So very important, real estate. Another type is small business. A small business is an ox. And so small business can be kind of wild, can be a little crazy, a little challenging. You have to deal with customers who are humans, which is challenging. But you know what? A lot of times small businesses can really start to grow and can fund some big time dreams. A subset of a small business is a franchise. And a franchise is where, hey, maybe you don't have it in you you're not entrepreneurial where, hey, I can start up something from scratch, but you could take a proven system and grow it from there. So if you think about it, and I've got a bunch of franchises up here, Marriott. So I just looked it up. I was talking with a crowd before this here tonight out there. I primarily stay at Marriott properties when I travel. And I looked at it tonight, and it says that in the last 14 years, I've stayed at Marriott properties 1,114 nights. That's over 3 years of my life in a hotel. Get fired up. I am lifetime titanium elite. And that means I get a free bottle of water when I check in. For real, that's all I get. But anyhow, when I check in, I know their policy. I know their systems better than they know their systems. So I'm trying to tell them, I give them feedback because I'm invested interest. And every time I check in by the counter, it says this hotel owned and operated by. That's a franchise owner. And in all my 1,114 nights of staying at Marriott properties, how many times do you think I've met the owner and operator of a Marriott franchise? That's right, a big fat 0 times. What percent of the time have they gladly took money from me? 100% of the time. Wouldn't it be awesome to have a business that people you never met love you so much that they just give you money? So maybe that's a franchise for you. I don't know. But Taco Bell, McDonald's, 95% of McDonald's locations are owned by franchisees. And if you want to learn about franchising and be entertained, so you can say, I'm doing my financial research, watch on Netflix the movie, The Founder. And the story of the founder is the story of Ray Kroc, who met the McDonald brothers. He saw their speedy hamburger system and said, that can be a franchise. The McDonald's brothers couldn't figure it out. They got a couple million. Ray Kroc became the billionaire, right? And so I encourage you to check that movie out, The Founder. Hey, I want to tell you about a couple other things as well. A talent could be a great ox for you. And a great ox, like maybe you can sing. Maybe you can do art. Maybe you have some sort of gift of teaching. I recently heard the story of a lady she's a therapist, and she primarily specializes in providing therapy, counseling services to children who've endured horrible crises in their life, like the death of a parent through disease or catastrophic loss of life of an accident, and there's children that were involved in the accident, things like that. So it's catastrophic. And she realized that it's very challenging to get anybody to talk about that, even more challenging for children to put that into words. And so she combined it with her passion for art. She created artwork, and she created custom art, and she puts it on a wall and says, the way you're feeling right now, which of these most resembles how you feel? And kids find it much easier to express themselves that way, and they would go and point to the one, and then she would say, what makes you say that's the one? Like, what do you identify with? And it starts a conversation, and she realized how effective it was, so she started selling copies of this art for $3 a piece. so that other therapists could have it. And she sold over 10,000 of those things in the next couple years. And now she's actually training other therapists in how to use them. Does that make sense? So her talent has been able to be maximized in a very unique way that's doing amazing work. So I don't know what your skill set is. Maybe you're a computer hacker. I don't know. Bill Gates was. He figured it out. And he licensed his technology, right? Intellectual property. And almost all of us have some sort of Microsoft technology in our place and in our space and how we do our work and on our phones. So I encourage you to think about that. A couple other oxen to think about. One of them is precious metals. A precious metal, such as gold, silver, platinum, things like that. You buy low, sell high. I particularly like the one that looks like a mirror. It's one of my more favorite ones. But it can be an investment. Another one could be cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency went way up, went way down, went even further up, and went way further down. But it is a thing. And cryptocurrency, the technology may be the most valuable thing of it. Let's just do some obvious things here, so you understand it. Because it's easy to say, oh, cryptocurrency is going to zero. And even investment geniuses are on polar opposites of it. But let's just do a little survey real quick. Who here has had a fraudulent charge on a debit card or credit card in your life? Raise your hand. Look around. Look around. Okay, hands down. So do you remember a couple summers ago when hackers shut down the Colonial Pipeline, we all ran out of gas? Anybody remember that? And they demanded Bitcoin? And no one knows who did it. It's so secure, no one even knows who created Bitcoin. Think about that. So the blockchain technology is what's the most important part of crypto. So I've invested a little bit in it, amount that I'm willing to lose if it did go to zero, because the Bible says, Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I transferred some money there, so I'll pay attention to it. I use Coinbase. Praise the Lord, I didn't use FTX. And I use this, and I've bought some crypto, and I'm watching it, right, so that I can learn about it. But it can be a type of investment, and many people have made quite a bit of money with it. So with that, I'm going to open it up for some questions. And my question is, do you have oxen? Because it's time to move. I told you it'd be utterly amazing. And that's no bull. Can you tell I'm trying to milk it? Okay. All right, let's scan it and let's answer some questions. Those are all bad jokes. I apologize. Is Joe fired up? Yes, I am. Okay, I have an anonymous question. Says, what are the tax implications to be aware of with the types of investments presented tonight? Well, that tells me this person is a regular investor at some level, because that's not a question asked of someone who's never invested. So let me answer that question. The tax implications depend on what platform you invested under. For example, today I sold a stock. Now I've lost money on some stock, but this stock actually went way up. It's First Horizons National Bank. It got bought by TD Bank. They're almost done closing the transaction. I sold that. I sold it at a pretty good gain, but because it's within my simple IRA account, there are no taxes on that gain, right? If I had bought it in a regular stock trading account, I'd be paying long-term capital gains tax on that because it was not in a tax-protected account. Make sense? If I buy real estate and I own a rental house and I hold that house for 1 year or longer and I made a profit, it'd be subject to long-term capital gains tax. Real estate investors say yes, that's true, right? But if I declared a 1031 exchange on the sale of it and within 180 calendar days closed on a like in-kind property, I could transfer that whole gain to the next property and owe no taxes. Does that make sense? So the tax implications are 100% dependent on what vehicle you use to conduct that transaction. Make sense? How do I know that? How do I know those facts? Because I sought counsel. And I also heard somebody say the hard way, right? We learn things good the hard way. and because I've sought counsel, right? So that's what I encourage each of you to do as you go to invest. Ask those questions. That's a really good question to ask, okay? Roth or not? The Roth or the regular IRA, both are great. Here's a fundamental fact that doesn't seem to make sense, but it's true. The Roth versus any other pre-tax, 401k, simple IRA, regular IRA, or 403b, 457 versus Roth. If you put the same amount in them, right, and you have the exact same personal tax rate from now till eternity, and when you pull the money out and it grows, same investment, it is worth, after taxes in the regular account, the exact same amount as the Roth. That's a fact. But here's the deal. At retirement, Roth IRAs are not subject to required minimum distributions. If you're young, you're like, what did he just say? If you're over 70, you kind of know. So that's just been moved to 73 now. At age 73, whatever's in pre-tax stuff like a 401k or that type of investment, the government mandates that you pull a certain percentage out every year so they can start taxing it, okay? And it's usually 4 to 5% of that balance. And here is the big deal that you have to consider. Let's ask a question. Do you think your personal tax rate will be more now or more when you retire? Some people say, oh, it's going to be more in the future. This is going to have to tax us to oblivion, the national debt. Maybe. But we don't know. It's a guess, right? If you think it's going to be more in the future, the tax rate, then you'd want to pay the taxes now. Does that make sense? That'd be a Roth IRA. If you think it's going to be less in the future because you have less earned income, right? You're not earning a full paycheck anymore, that sort of thing. Your income is rental income, interest income. Then you would want to avoid taxes now. Make sense? Regular IRA, 401k, and pay the taxes later when your tax rate is less. I know that's complex, but I just want to answer it that way. That's good. So here's what I've done. I've chosen to kind of split the difference. I do halvesies. Half in Roths, half in other stuff, as much as I can. Okay? I can contribute more to a simple IRA. What they just changed with the Secure Act is we can now create Roth simple IRAs, which is really cool. So I'm excited about that. Thoughts on the health of the economy, inflation, Fed policies, national debt, printing money, implications for those trying to get finances in order. They have no implications for someone trying to get their finances in order except for this. It could affect your employment, right? If unemployment goes up and inflation recesses, that means people are getting unemployed. So build your savings now. Build margin now. Prioritize margin, because the more margin you have, the less your employer can control your life. Make sense? If you have none saved and you get laid off, it's an immediate crisis, immediately late on everything, right? If you prioritize savings now and you get laid off, you've got margin to make different decisions. And so I encourage you with that. But specifically speaking, the health of the economy, inflation is finally starting to taper a little. The rough measure is when the Federal Reserve increases rates, it takes 6 months for the full effect of that rate increase to actually show up. So the Federal Reserve has still been increasing rates, but we're only seeing the full effects of what happened like last July. Does that make sense? And since inflation is starting to show that it's going down, the CPI and the PCE are going down, then all of a sudden that's telling us that maybe, just maybe, we're close to that. And right now, the economy is not recessing. Our GDP has continued to go up. All of the big banks, JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, all those guys are saying we're going to have a recession. But they've been wrong before. I don't know. I'm not the predictor of that. But here's what I do know. The things that you can control is build margin and be wise with everything you put in your hands so that you maximize every dollar. You can control that regardless of what's happening with the economy. And grow your own chickens. My chickens finally started laying eggs again. I went and had a pep talk to them. Okay? I'm going to answer a couple more questions here, and then we're going to move on to budgeting. How aggressive should your 401k portfolio be? I'm currently 70-30. That's a great question for your financial advisor. And so it all depends upon you. You know, it depends on your tolerance for risk. It depends on your age. Depends on when you might need the money. I will just tell you Joe Sangl's rules, his personal rules. You need your own rules. You ready? I have something called the 5-year rule. If I think I need a certain amount of money in the next 5 years, I will not invest it. I put it in safekeeping. Right now, listen up, savers. Right now, the I bond issued by the Treasury is paying 6.78% interest. For the first 6 months, April 30th, they'll re-rate it, and it is not subject to state or local taxes. You have to leave it there 1 year, but the I bond at the treasurydirect.gov, it was 9.86% for the 6 months prior to this. So I put my savings there, and as much as I could, you can put 10 grand per person, a minimum of $50, okay? And that's a great question. And then as far as your investing, so anything I know I won't need in the next 5 years, well, I have to take risk with it because I have a guaranteed thing called inflation chomping on the ability of that money to buy stuff. And the reason I chose 5 years, you can choose any year period that's right for you, but the reason I chose 5 years is if you can choose any 5-year period of the market, 97% of those 5-year periods have made money. Okay, 97% of them. You choose any 1-year period, a whole bunch of them have lost money, like last year, right? But if you choose 5-year periods, 97% of those made money, so I'm going to run on that risk. Make sense? And so the longer that window is, the more risk I'm willing to take. I'll remind you, I am 48. My answer might be a little different when I'm 68. I might have like a 10-year window, okay? So, but I am my father's son, and he's 84, and he's still buying rental houses and fixing them up. And he also still works and won't quit working. So he works in a federal grandparents program at school. He gets paid $12 a day and free school lunch. And he mentors 2nd through 5th grade kids that are behind or behavioral issues in groups of 4 to 6. And then he leaves there and he works at Kroger in the apparel department, which is insanely humorous to me because he never did a load of laundry in my entire life, and he folds laundry at Kroger. That cracks me up because Kroger up there has super centers like Walmart, which is awesome. Okay, I'm going to continue on. We'll answer some more questions here in a minute. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's talk about planning. It says in Proverbs 21:5, we're on page number 6, I think it is. Yes, and it says the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Okay? So who wants profit? Who wants money left over? We all do. Who wants poverty? Not me. So look at that verse. There's 2 things that yield profit. Talk to me. What are the 2 things that yield profit? You got to have a plan, fill that in, and what else? Diligence. So now I'm speaking to all of you who are in that place of paycheck to paycheck living. You're trying to maximize what you have so you can invest. Okay? And this is good for all of us. We need a plan. Oh, what type of plan, Joe? A plan for your life. If you got the book 20/20 Money, that's all about seeking God for his plan for your life. And then you need to have a financial plan to support that. Okay? And what is it called for your monthly plan for your money? What is the word we use for that? A budget. So let's say it that way. The budget of the diligent lead to profit. Make sense? And so we want profit, and diligence is a fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22 and 23 says, for the fruits of the Spirit, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, right? Peace, patience, and self-control. So self-control, like the ability to be self-disciplined. So how long is diligence? How long of a time period? It's kind of forever, right? How long is it for your 3-year-old to be diligent? Like, man, they were really diligent with that. 3 or 4 minutes, right? But as an adult, it's like years at least, right? So that's really important here. And so here's the you can do this point. Fill it there on the bottom of page 6. There must be a plan. There must be a plan. You need a plan for your life and then a plan for your money to support it. There simply must be a plan. Like, would you have a plan for a wedding? You ever been to an unplanned wedding? I have. Gatlinburg tomorrow. Like, that's what they told me back then. It was terrible, as Charles Barkley says. TRBL, terrible. It was terrible, very terrible. Okay, how long do we typically plan for a wedding? Talk to me. 9 months, a year. Who has young daughters here? Raise your hand. All right, let's pray. Jesus, you see these hands. Bless them, Lord, when I tell them this number. Remind you, you're a Prince of Peace, not of fear when you hear this. Amen. Okay, what is the average cost of a wedding in America right now? Latest number. I hear 60, it's lower. I heard 30, I heard it back here somewhere. $35,000. So if you have multiple daughters, start praying. Pray, saints. I have 2 daughters. They are 14 years apart. I have told them, I'm a financial teacher. It is my duty to lower that average. I'm a licensed ordained minister of the gospel. I'm going to marry them off. I am. We're getting married in front of the red barn on the farm, and we're going to eat the chickens and their eggs. That'll be the marriage supper. And we're going to buy her dress at Goodwill. And then the one 14 years younger can use it again. We can get out of here for like $75. How do you think that went over? Like a submarine with screen doors. That's how it went over, right? So I'm planning. Now we get married. That's supposed to last how long? Forever. All right? So how long is the marriage ceremony? How long do we want the marriage ceremony to last? 20 minutes. That's right. You ever been to the hour-long one? The food had better be great, right? If you're going to hold us there for an hour, right? So you're married, and I'm like 23 minutes. I'm 23 minutes, okay? And they're married, and how much money do they spend planning like for the rest of their life part? We just acknowledged for the moment $35K. Usually, most couples spend nothing. In fact, they want the minister to meet with them 6 times in premarital counseling and then spend their entire weekend with them, marrying them off, and then they'll give them a $50 bill. While the pastor sits there and sees $35,000 blown out the door. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Just saying. So anyhow, the planning. So wouldn't marriages be in better shape if we actually spent some money like on the planning for the rest of our life part? That's kind of my press that I would like to help with that. What about surgery? Would you want your surgeon to have a plan? I'm just asking questions. What if you met with your surgeon, and I met with a surgeon today? I don't have to have surgery. Hallelujah. But I met with my cardiologist, my family, my mother. She's wonderful. She's great. She's 81, but she has an enlarged heart. She has an ascending aortic aneurysm. She had to have it replaced. She's got a little pig valve in there. She's good for another 20, 30, 40 years. But she gave it to 4 of my 6 brothers. And so 2 of them already have clickers. They click like tick-tock clocks. And, you know, they'll last 300 years. You know, they have to hit them with a hammer, right? But here's the thing. When we met with the surgeons, do you think we wanted to hear, you're my first patient. We're just going to start cutting on you with a spork I got at Taco Bell? You know, man, I hope it goes good for you. What would you say to that surgeon? Yeah, I'm not even sure I'd say bye. I mean, I'd be vapor trails forming me leaving there. But you know what I want the surgeon to say? I've done 1,683 of these. I've got plan A through Z, and I've never had a wrong issue. You can check me out on WebMD. I'm A++++. That's what I want to hear. How about you? I want them to have a plan. So why on earth would we not have a plan for our money? Did we not say that it is critically important to our plans, hopes, and dreams that we would have money? So the plans of the diligent lead to what? Profit. And so why don't we have a plan for our money? Come on, we all know we need a budget, right? We've heard that. I mean, there's even an app named that. You need a budget. Some of you use it. They call it YNAB, right? But the vast majority of people don't have a budget. And they say all these reasons why. I'm tired. There's not enough money. I'm exhausted, right? I had a nightmare. I was a muffler on a car. I woke up exhausted, right? You know, just they give me a lot of good excuses. But at the end of the day, if you get one life, why would we not be intentional with one of the major fuels of our dreams, which is the resources? You want to own a house? Does that cost money? You want to help your kids with college? Does that cost money? You want to have kids? Oh, good job. $260,000 to get them to age 18, not including college. Woo! That's unbelievable. My nephew eats 8 to 10 eggs at a time. That's like, I looked at my brother and was just like, oh my goodness, right? So you need a plan. Jesus spoke to it, and I shared it this weekend where he says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough what? Money to complete it. For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying this fellow began to build and was not able to finish. I want you to be able to finish. And so on page number 7, I want you to write down a couple of the biggest dreams you have. All right, I'm going to guide this for a minute. Where do you guys want to travel? Say it out loud and write it down. Hawaii, Barbados, Ireland. Write them down. Where else? Yosemite. Come on. Go sing those giant sequoias. Drive through one. Where else you guys want to go? England. Oh, you're British. Great. That's awesome. Has a terrible accent. But I love it. England is awesome. Where else you guys want to go? The Mediterranean. All of it, right? Where do you want to start in the Mediterranean? Greece? Santorini? Rome? Sicily? Italy. Italia. Excellent. That's great. Where else you guys want to go? Israel, the Holy Land. Absolutely. Where else? Australia. And while you're there, you might as well go to New Zealand. I mean, it's just there. And then jump to Fiji. Okay, where else do you want to go? Brazil? Come on. Japan. Yes. Where else you guys want to go? New York. Going to be a part of it. Start spreading the news, right? Who wants to go to see the Eiffel Tower in France? While you're there, you can go see Napoleon in his crypt. It's unbelievable. The mausoleum built there. It's unbelievable. At the Musée des Armées. Okay? But here's what I know. Plane tickets leave, they leave, I mean, daily, if not on the hour, out of the airport 3 miles from here. Your name should be on one of those tickets, right? But does it cost money? It costs money. Okay? Who wants to help your kids or grandkids with college? Anybody want to do that? Write it down. NC529.org. The NC529 plan, right? Here's the thing. The 529 functions like a Roth IRA, but for your kids' college. The beautiful thing is you retain ownership of it. So if they major in partying, the funds will dry up. And kids have been known to maybe do that occasionally. And the other thing is you put in money, you can deduct it from your state income taxes. It'll grow free of taxes in mutual funds, and you can use it for qualified educational expenses. And thanks to the 2017 tax cut, you can use $10,000 a year for K through 12 private school education, tuition. That's a big deal. And what's really important is when you file that FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, that whole amount that's in there, only 5.8% or so of it will count against them for family contribution. So they don't want to de-incentivize people to save for their kids' college. I started saving for my daughter's college when she was 4, because I graduated student loan debt and I didn't want her to have student loan debt. And I started with $100 a month. A year later, I got debt-free except for my house. I went to $200 a month. And about 10 years later, we paid off our house, and I bumped it up to $500 a month. When we went looking at colleges as a junior and early senior, that account had exceeded 6 figures, over $100,000. Well over half of it was money I did not put in there, right? All of it tax-free. And one of the big questions that people have is, well, what if we don't use that money? What if my kid doesn't go to college? Well, they're starting to work on options. The Secure Act started that they just passed, to where you can roll up to $35,000 in your lifetime over to an IRA, which is important. You can also change the beneficiary to another child or grandchild. Or if they get a scholarship, whether academic or athletic, you can pull out an amount equivalent to that scholarship without a penalty. You may have to pay taxes. Make sense? So my daughter ended up getting almost a full ride because she's a cross-country runner and she's really fast. And so I was able to pull out an amount to that scholarship, and she used it to buy her first house. Right? And so, I'm intent on changing a generation. How about you? Anybody here want your kid to do better than you did? I hear so many people say this thing, and I can't identify with it all. Well, I started with nothing. They can start with nothing. Well, that's a terrible vision. I'm sorry that you stink that bad. I'm for real. Like, why on earth would you want your kid to start worse? Now, I do understand some of the sentiment. I don't want them to be spoiled. I don't want them to not know what to do with it, because then it'll ruin their life, right? So I'm planning on leaving a legacy with the resources. Make sense? So when my daughter was 12, she got a Roth IRA. She went to Santa and he said, what do you want for Christmas? She said, I want a Roth IRA. You know what Santa said? Cracked me up. He said, I know where you can get a great retirement account. She said, where? He said, join the Marines. No joke. Santa told my 12-year-old daughter to join the Marines. It was awesome. But guess what? Guess what? My little 9-year-old daughter right now, she has an investment account. My 12-year-old son, he has an investment account. And when they work for my company, they'll sell books every now and then, or they'll come in and clean or whatever. They get money. It's going into accounts. And I'm showing them how to invest. And I teach them till their eyes do this. You know why? Because I don't dare not challenge my children. I want them to prosper. So do you. You want your kids to prosper, but you don't want them spoiled, and I want them to understand the value of that. So I try to teach on their level. I press till their eyes twirl, and I back up. But that's why I want to be financially successful too, is for my kids, right? So do you. Who wants to give more money away? Anybody want to give more money away? Write it down. To whom do you want to give money? What causes? Your church, whatever it might be, write it down. And so I wrote down all these dreams. Like, I have a dream to write $1 million check to my church. That's my dream. And have it clear, right? Isn't that awesome? And so that's like my dream. And it's one of my dreams because it's such a ridiculous, audacious goal, but it's just one of my dreams. I helped start the church 23 years ago. We had our first service as of yesterday. And you know what? Amazing things have happened. And I love being a part of every minute of it. So I encourage you to continue to add to those dreams. And then we're going to go to budgeting on how to fund that. And that is on page 8. Spend your money before the month begins. Everybody say before. Before the month begins. Now, in my next printing of this, I'm going to change it to read, to plan your spending before the month begins. Okay? But what it really says is, because some people say, spend your money before the month begins. I've already done that. That's why I'm here. This is not very helpful. So what I'm really saying is, you should apply a formula to your money, and that is that income minus outgo equals exactly zero trademark. And the reason we trademarked it is you could take the E from exactly and the Z from zero, and you can say it's easy. Trademark. No one cares. We'll move on. But, you know, we said, it says Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead to what? Profit. So you may be saying, Joe, that it shouldn't equal exactly zero. It should be like positive number. What if I told you outgo included spending money into savings and investments? In other words, naming it. Then would you agree with me? Okay, so let's talk about 3 things you should save for, okay? And the first thing is emergencies. Are emergencies going to happen? You bet they're going to happen, right? Your roof's going to leak. The tires are going to go flat. The engine's going to break down on the car. The AC is going to go out in the hottest day of the year, and the heater's going to go out in the coldest day of the year. Duke's going to do rolling blackouts. No, I didn't know. None of that happened to you up here, right? Yeah. In about 20 minutes, my water froze up. It was awesome. It was great. Thank you, Duke. It was great. Anyhow, emergencies happen, right? And you can't plan for those, but they happen. And so the way you can plan for them is financially plan for them. Because if you don't save for them, they're still going to happen, right? Have you noticed they're attracted to times you have no money? And so here's what I found: save for emergencies. Start with 1 month's worth of expenses. Many of you are getting ready to get a tax refund. The most powerful thing you could probably do with that, if you don't have a month's worth of money saved up, is to just put it in savings. It allows you to have space in your life. And that's what I did to start my first emergency fund. The second thing you should save for is something called known, upcoming, non-monthly expenses. They're known, you know they're coming, but they're not monthly. So you tend to forget about them. What are some of those known, upcoming, but not monthly expenses? Car registration, Christmas, property taxes, HOA, yep, birthdays or special days in general, anniversaries, birthdays, things like that. Vacation. I like it when I'm saving for vacation, right? Maybe it's a home renovation project. Whatever it is, these known, upcoming, non-monthly expenses, we tend to forget about them because they're not monthly. And so we have a calculator. It's located on the website that you link to there. And you can put in all the things you're saving for this year. Christmas, vacation, annual life insurance premium, property taxes, HOA, annual YMCA membership, whatever it is. And the whole key is to save for that every paycheck. Make sense? And I have an online savings account. I like Ally, ALLY.com, and Marcus, MARCUS.com. That's Goldman Sachs Main Street Bank. They both right now are paying 3.3% interest, $1 minimum balance, FDIC insured, no fees. That's awesome. And what I love about them is they have something called named sub-accounts. So when I Ally calls them buckets. When you log in, you can create sub-accounts. And so under Marcus, I have emergency fund. I have annual YMCA fund. I have the annual life insurance fund, the vacation fund. Does that make sense? And I set up an automatic zap for my bill pay account, and it will zap it from my bill pay account and put it in those individual accounts at Marcus. Make sense? So when I log in, it says overall available balance, but then it shows which account it's there for. And I love that because it's making a little bit of interest, but it's organized. I know exactly that I'm on track for all those expenses. So when they show up, vacation's paid for before I leave. Get fired up. It'll knock 5 strokes off your golf score because you're not sitting there saying, oh, I financed this, right? Shank, hypotamus, right? So anyhow, known upcoming non-monthly expenses. The third thing you should save for are your dreams. What are your dreams? Nothing will fire you up more than seeing yourself making progress towards a dream. The Bible says in Proverbs 13 that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled, that's soothing to the soul. And so I want you to be making progress towards that. So let's put together a budget. On page number 8, I have a sample budget. Now we're going to do one. This is our budget tool. It's free. Guess where? On the website. The website that you should check out, it's on this back. That's for IWasBrokeNowI'mNot.com. But the advanced tools are all on that QR code that I showed a minute ago, and I'm going to put it up here again. And it's called fullyfunded.life. And we're going to do this calculator. And what's our first thing? Our take-home pay, right? What's our take-home pay? $4,000. Now watch this. Let's say we've already paid our taxes and we contributed to our retirement account, okay? This is our take-home pay after it. So we've invested and we got our money. When are we doing this? Before we get paid or after? Before the month begins or after? Okay? Before the bills are due or after? That's when planning happens, right? Before. Okay? So we're on plan it. What's our first outgo item? Talk to me. Okay? So we're going to tithe. Does God want to be first or last? Right? Just remember what Ricky Bobby said. If you're not first, you're last. All right? So 450, and we tithed on our gross here. So it does the math for us. Are we fired up about that? It did the math, 3,550. What's next? Okay, we're building our emergency fund. So $200. Okay, what's next? The mortgage. Do you see this? Isn't this exciting? I feel the energy in the room. Everybody's so excited. Who here loves spreadsheets like you love this, right? Who here like literally, if you were offered being hit upside the head with a 2x4, would seriously consider it versus this. Okay, I get it. I understand that. Brad raised his hand. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so we put everything in there, and trust me, I've got it all in there. It's overspent by $384.53. Can you live that way, yes or no? Oh, we're gathered as a church. Oh, Joe, no, we could never live that way. But I lived that way for years. How do you live with a negative number? Yeah, swiper. You're going to be swiping, right? And so you can't prosper if you live this way. So there's really two ways to fix this, right? How do you fix this negative problem? Increase income or decrease outgo. Ideally, you could do some of both, right? So let's say in this example, I'm a high school teacher and a track coach, and I'm too busy this month to produce more income, so I'm just going to work on outgo. Sound realistic? Okay, so look at these three expenses here. Which of these three could we reduce or eliminate? Entertainment? Spending money? Okay, how much spending money should we take out? Oh, I spend several $1,000s a minute. I'm a spender. Depends, right? I know it's abstract, but so here's the thing. I wanted to press in on this. Some of you didn't say it out loud, but you thought it. Cut it all out. You don't deserve no spending money, right? And I would just tell you, spenders, can I speak on your behalf? If you cut out all of our spending, we may stick to this for 30 minutes, maybe. After that, we're going to find a hidden credit card and show you what spending is. We're going to have an outburst. Is that true, spenders? Okay, so maybe we can cut it in half. And I just want to stop here and say the number one reason why budgets don't work is we lie to ourselves when we prepare it. True or false, the times you prepared a budget is because you were angry at something. You're like, that's it, we're going on a budget. Get in here now. And it's like, oh, Lord Jesus, come quickly, right? And you're in there and it's like, you don't get any money. You spend money like crazy. You spend too much. While we're fixing things, you spend too much at the grocery store. I can't even get in the pantry. You get $7 for groceries this month. We're eating out of the pantry and the freezer. Mystery meat Monday, pantry Tuesday. I found some couscous in there. It's been there 9 years, 361 days. It's got 4 days left on it. We're gonna have some canned spam, canned salmon, mix it together. It's be spamming. Spamalicious, right? How long are you gonna stick to that budget? You're not going to stick to that budget. So hear me on this. Do not lie to yourself when you prepare your budget. Don't lie. Because you're only hurting yourself, right? And let me tell you another thing. This is really important for a lot of couples, by the way. It does not matter what your sister's able to do or what your brother's able to do or what your friend at work is able to do. Your life is not their life and their life is not your life. Like if you got 3 kids involved in 3 travel sports and you're like, you know, so-and-so, they have 3 kids in sports and they don't spend any money on dining out. They bought themselves a 55-gallon drum of Nutella and they just eat Nutella. And while that sounds amazing, that does not work for me. You know what I'm saying? So don't lie to yourself, okay? Can we reduce entertainment? Okay, how do you reduce entertainment? Find the free activities. You know, museums have a lot of free days. Do activities don't cost a lot, right? I got on there, I'm going to watch my basketball game. I'm going to watch my Purdue Boilermakers. They've been number 1 a lot of the year, right? No one cares, okay? But I could settle by saying I'm going to watch it on TV, right? But you can't come back later and cut off my TV, okay? So we maybe reduce it to 40, okay? Now we go to groceries and dining out. It's family of 3, 2 parents and a kid. Can we save money on either of these? How do you save money on groceries? Walmart, Aldi, Sam's, Costco, coupons, use a list, off brands, don't go hungry, shop the sales, Leave the kids at home. No joke. Leave the spender at home, okay? So maybe we can cut out $50. You didn't mention the greatest way for me, though. The greatest way I save money is I converted to cash envelopes, to where I did not allow myself to use a debit card or a credit card. And I only use cash. So I withdraw that money, and I'm not kidding. I go through with my phone and a piece of paper, and I'm adding it up. I like math anyhow, so it's only for you math people. I'm a nerd. I'm in there in Aldi. I don't overspend. You know, when I first did cash envelopes, I went in there and I had my little young daughter, and we saw the new Barbie movie, and she's like, the new Barbie movie. And I forgot that I'm changing, right? So my spender ways, I'm like, I know I'm at Walmart to buy food, but I'm buying the Barbie movie. How many times do you buy a Barbie movie when you're on cash envelopes? One time. Let me tell you how it goes. You get to the end of the month, you're out of money, and you're hungry, and you're watching that movie the 75th time in a row. You're pondering eating it because you're that hungry, and at least you won't have to watch it again. After that, your 3-year-old in there, I want the new Barbie movie. You'll say, you want it, get a job, right? It's really, really weird. Okay, save down to $400. Dining out. How do you save money on dining out? Don't go. Of course. I didn't know that. That's a trick question. You can order water. I put $1 in front of my kids, my 2 younger kids. You can order a Sprite, or you can order water and you can get $1. The $1's cheaper for me, and I don't have to deal with sugared up kids. It's awesome. Hey, listen, who has teenage kids eating you out of house and home? I'm gonna give you a great trick. You know, below the cereal boxes, down below, they have the bushel bales of cereal in the big plastic bags. You guys know those? Buy one of those, and about a half hour before you go out to eat, pull them out on a counter. I'm not kidding. They will smell it. They don't even know. They walk in and they'll eat like 8 bowls of it. I'm not kidding. Go test me. And by the time you go out to eat, they're not really that hungry. And they order a reasonable amount of food. These are life hacks. So maybe you can cut it in half, okay? So we're getting close, aren't we? What about kids' clothes? Can we reduce it a little? Hand-me-downs, Goodwills, shop the sales, right? And we get down to babysitting. This isn't daily child care, but it's, babysitting. Can you trade with someone else? You watch our kids this night, we'll watch them that night, okay? We're getting innovative. Can you reduce your emergency fund savings a little? Hey, if I started this and I had $5 in savings, is it still a win to save $169? Yeah, what just happened? It's exactly zero. Are you fired up? Woo! Okay, so I just want to go back there and say, who's going to try a budget this next month? You're going to try one, okay? Now preparing the budget's difficult, right? But you know the more difficult part is, right? Following it. That's the diligence thing. Ask the Lord to help you stick with it, and it's easier to be diligent when you haven't lied to yourself, okay? Let's talk about killing debt, okay? It says in Romans 13:8 to let no debt remain outstanding except for the continuing debt to love one another. And so Proverbs 22:7 says the rich rule over the poor and the borrower servant to the lender. There's not a spot to write stuff down here. You can go to page 4 or page 11 and write down notes as you see it, okay? But we have a debt freedom date calculator. Guess where it's located? It's on the website. And we like to pay off debt with something called the debt snowball. Let me explain it. We line up our debts from the smallest amount owed to the largest. Do you see that? If so, say yes. Okay. And then we pay minimum payments on all debts until we get a month's worth of money saved up. It's more important to have savings than it is to pay any dollar extra towards debt. Once you get that margin built, that prevents new debt, then you pay any and all extra money towards the smallest owed debt. You restructure this debt to the lowest interest possible. You have a high interest credit card, roll it over to a 0% balance transfer offer. Call and ask for a lower rate. And so it adds up all your debt and pretends it's one big debt, $34,000, $121, and $927 a month payment. And here's the vision. You ready for vision? When you get debt free, I didn't say if, when, I'm prophesying here. Somebody receiving it? Okay. When you get debt free, you get to have $927 a month that you can do anything other than send it to a bank. Who would rather do anything except for send it to a bank? And by the way, that's after tax money. You have to earn like $1,250 a month, like 15 grand a year to net home 927. Make sense? And so watch this. It takes you 16 months. This was without any pay raise, no bonus, no found money by budgeting better, no selling stuff, no working overtime, no second job. That it takes 16 months to pay that off. Now the debt snowball works this way. Number one, watch how all these other debts went down. See how they all went down? And this used to be 125. You no longer have to pay it to the furniture, so it's added to the 87 going to credit card one. If you see that, say yes. So it's like a debt snowball. It's called a snowball because as you roll over that sticky snow, it picks up more snow. And now in 6 more months, you start getting victories more often. It pays off credit card one. Now you have 328, and that's just a little over a month. It's gone. And then you have 3 payments of that, and the car's gone. And then you call up Sally Mae and say, hey, we breaking up. Isn't that awesome? And let me tell you, you'll have setbacks along the way. You will. Because the enemy knows. And if he can keep you broke, he will do everything he can to break your spirit. Because it'll keep you ineffective, selfish. But if you break this, you can become selfless and generous. And so we love celebrating debt freedom. Some people chopped up credit cards and sent me pictures. They spelled no new debt with theirs. This person burnt theirs with an oxyacetylene cutting torch. But they're from Georgia, so pray for them. But here's the deal. If you use your credit card carefully with a plan, get all the points you want. And you pay it off every month. But if you can't control them, maybe you need to do something like this. I had to do that. I went without a credit card for 6 years because they enabled my impulsiveness. 6 years later, I had fundamentally changed. Make sense? And now we run a couple $1 million a year through our credit cards, and we've never paid a dime of interest, right? And we redeem all the points and give them in gift cards and cash to our employees, and they seem to like it. And so but credit cards are not the problem. They are the enabler of someone else's problem. Does that make sense? Okay? So let's carry on here. We have something called payoff spectaculars to where you can visually track your debt payoff. So we call them spectaculars because I think it's just a spectacular name. But I put all these squares in here. This is Joe Sangl's graphic design services right here. There's 454 squares. So you divide what you paid for the minivan, in this case, by 454. So what's a minivan cost? Talk to me. I'm going to say $45,000. Divided by 454 squares, it's $99.12 a square. So every time you get a $100 bill, you could go out to eat or color in a square. What do you think I did? No, I went out to eat. I told you I'm a spender. No, I discovered power of working together, and me and my bride color in a square. And we created a whole coloring book of these. We have a truck payoff spectacular. It went nuts. We have this person colored in the car one and sent it to me. This is a Jeep one for the Jeep lifers. They paid it off. We have a college degree one as they paid off their student loans. We have a TV payoff spectacular. We have a credit card payoff spectacular. We have more than 200 of these. We even have, this is so nuts, we even have a llama payoff spectacular. And that's funny. I don't care who you are. And do you know why we have a llama payoff spectacular? We have met not one, but 2 people who financed a llama. I'm not kidding. And if you financed a llama, there's a special coaching session with me after this, right? So that's why they spit. They're financed. They're worried about being repoed, right? But we also have saving spectaculars. So if you're saving up to pay cash for your beautiful llama, right? Or your Harley, or your ski boat, or fishing boat, or LASIK eye surgery, or the Eiffel Tower for Paris, or the Italian boot, or the UK islands. Wherever you want to go, we probably have it for you. It's all on that website, and you can download them for free, and you can color them in. Once you color them in, go buy the tickets and go. Buy the thing. Does that make sense? It allows you to bring the family into the adventure, and it's a lot of fun. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's exactly what this is. And so we have a lot of fun with that. Okay, let's answer some questions, and then we'll finish up with talking about retirement and compound interest. We might run till about 8:10 since we had a little late start. So I apologize for that. Let's scan it, and let's answer some questions. How do you prioritize debt? Which one should be paid off first? So the debt snowball answers that question, hopefully for you. It's the smallest balance owed, okay? Lower the interest as much as possible. But the reason we focus on you can focus on the highest interest. That's not a terrible thing. But what we really want to be able to do is help you get victories. And every time you can eliminate a debt, you're freeing up margin that month. Make sense? That next month, you don't have to add it to the snowball if you don't need to. Or if you have a better use for those dollars, you can apply it towards that. Okay? So that's a really good question. How do I create a budget when both my wife and myself are commission-based? Pick up a copy of I Was Broke, Now I'm Not as you leave tonight. Pick it up and flip all the way to chapter 8 and just read chapter 8 and do chapter 8, okay? In your membership, you're going to get access to all 11 of my ebooks too that I've written, including How to Manage Money with a Non-Participating Spouse. It's very important. And then I also have another one on how to manage income with irregular income. How do you budget with irregular income? So read both of those resources. I run businesses. All of them have irregular income, and we budget that way. Okay?
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Real fast. Some of them are trying to access fully funded life, and it crashed when they get it. So they just try to get into more.
No, it's going to come up here in a minute. They'll be able to scan it again here in a minute. Yeah, that's great. How do you get information, get started with real estate? Do you have to already have a lot of money? No. Here's what I would tell you with real estate. You ready? With real estate, I would encourage you to listen to this podcast called Bigger Pockets. Just write it down on page 11. It's called the Bigger Pockets Podcast. It's the largest real estate podcast in the world. It's free, and it is, in a word, incredible. They interview real estate investors that they vet out, and they make them share real numbers. Every one of them, they make them share answers to the same 8 questions. I would not just go listen to the latest episode. I would search for the type of real estate you're interested in and listen to those. Are you interested in only trailer parks? Go listen to the trailer park episodes. You laugh, but they're money gushers. No joke. You multi-unit apartment complexes, look at that. If you want to do single family, if you want to do duplexes, if you want to do car washes, you want to do commercial storage, whatever it might be, go find, there's at least 10, 15 episodes on every one of those, and go learn from them. It's incredible, and I credit them with helping me in my own financial journey in a big way. Behind that, I would go find great real estate investors in your community and ask to meet with them. Tell them you're interested and that you're currently in the information gathering phase. Can they help you? I can tell you, I started my land owning real estate, and I own about 63 pieces of raw property. I started that 15 years ago at a financial learning experience. I'm out here shaking people's hands, and a lady that I didn't recognize said, "You met with me like 3 years ago." And I'm like, "What are you here? What do you want to learn tonight?" I ask people that tonight. And she said, I'm here to get the Chick-fil-A sandwich. I appreciate her honor, honoring me with reality and honesty. And she said, "I'm actually here to get an Attagirl." Okay. And she said, "You met with me and you helped me. You told me that if my business consistently lost money, that I might want to call it a hobby instead of a business." And I shut it down. And she's like, "That was actually the greatest decision I ever made. I actually found my passion." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Selling farms." I was like, "I want to buy a farm." The next day, she sent me a link on Facebook. The next day, I was walking the property, and the next day, I was under contract with my first farm, right? So you have your eyes open for it. And it's weird how the opportunity may be this far away from you, but you won't see it unless you're seeking it. Does that make sense? So that's how you get started. And I'm going to do some extra teaching. I got to do it for like 2 minutes. I feel compelled to do it. Write this down just write it down maybe in the notes area on page 4. You ready? I want you to write these 3 words down. Do a triangle. Do a triangle. On each point, I want you to write these words, okay? I want you to write dollars. Write down dollars or just a money sign. In the next corner, write deal. And the next one, write work. Okay? Now, Here's the fact. If you can have two of those, you can always find the third. You ready? If you have a nose for a deal and you can find a deal and you're willing to work it, you can always find the money to come along. Always. Right? If you have the dollars and you're willing to work it, you will have deals come to you. Make sense? If you've got the deal and the dollars, you can always pay somebody to work it. Does that make sense? And maybe you could write this down. How do you find a deal? There's different D's that happen, and it's how you find deals. You ready for the D's? I'm going to rattle them off pretty fast. Death, disease, divorce, disinterest. Death, disease, divorce, disinterest equals a deal. Think about it. People own real estate. People own a business. If the person dies and no one in their family wants to run the thing, they may sell it for a deal because they're like, I don't know how to do this. This is going to collapse without me. Say if they get disease, it changes priorities, right? They may need the money. And if they're disinterested, sometimes their goals change. And I can tell you, one of those four has always been true for me with the deal that I found. Make sense? And so I'm telling you, that little bit right there, if you're willing to hustle and you go get the information and the knowledge and you find a deal, hey, listen, don't worry, the dollars will come find you. There are people sitting on piles of money and they don't have time. They don't have the deal. They're looking for people like you to go partner with. And I can tell you when I bought my first big business, I brought it before my financial coach, and he gave me some feedback. The next day he said, hey, can you be at this address I'm going to send you at 2 o'clock? I want you to pitch this to my buddies. And let me tell you, it opened the door for all the dollars to show up for my deal that I was willing to work to happen. Make sense? And they all had very Merry Christmases. All of us did. And 7 years later, all those jokers are gone, and I own the thing outright. And they all keep asking, when am I doing another deal? Well, when I find one, maybe I'll reach out to them. Make sense? So hopefully that's helpful, okay? And again, with the coaching that's available to all of you, I encourage you to set up a coaching appointment right away with one of our coaches. That's the type of coaching you'll get. Should you prioritize paying off debt before investing? Turn to page 12. Should you prioritize paying off debt before investing? Do you see that ladder on page 12? This is your roadmap. This is a roadmap that we put together after studying literally tens of thousands of people's journey financially, and it's the most proven way to build wealth in a God-honoring manner, okay? And so if you look at it, the first step is to invest on rung 3. After you've set your goals and you save money, starting with a month's worth of expenses, you start investing enough to get the company match in a retirement account. If you don't have a company retirement account or a match, do $100 a month in your own retirement account. Then start paying off non-house, non-business debt. Make sense? As you get done with that and you build your savings to a minimum of 3 months worth of expenses, you can see rung 6 goes to 15% of your gross income to investing. And after you pay off your house and business debt, rung 8 is 30%. Make sense? So this ladder is taught. It's one of the first 2 courses we ask you to take as part of Fully Funded Life because it's kind of your roadmap, so to speak, on being able to build a plan that works for you, okay? So we'll ask you what rung are you on, and that will help clarify that for you. Great question. I'll answer a couple more, and then we'll finish it up. What's the best way to budget for a wedding in 9 months while paying off debt and monthly bills? Well, the first thing I would do is download our mini budget. It's called the mini budget. And put in all the things you're saving for. The dress, the flowers, the venue, the minister, more than $50, and at least $51. And the DJ, the band, I don't know what all is, the food, all the stuff. Put it in there and get your number and make sure your number's realistic. And then what I would do is I would put on hold any aggressive debt payoff, any of that stuff. I'd just pay minimums so that you don't leave the marriage having incurred new debt. Make sense? And then ask for gifts of cash for your wedding. That'd be awesome too. How to build credit without acquiring debt? It's impossible. How do you build credit without debt? You can't do it. It's like not possible. A credit score is a debt management score. And you cannot have a credit score without managing some debt. And so that's a reality. Okay, let's wrap it up with retirement and compound interest. Proverbs 13:22 says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. And so I want to leave an inheritance for my grandchildren. And so we have a retirement nest egg calculator. Guess where it's located? It's on your website. And let's say that you did some math. Go to page 11 and write down this website. It's ssa.gov. That's the Social Security Administration website, ssa.gov. And I want you to open your SSA account if you have not. Some of you already have your account, but if you've never opened your Social Security account, you need to go to ssa.gov and open your account. Why? It's an important part of your retirement planning. And when you log in, you can get your annual Social Security statement. It's a PDF statement you can download. They used to mail them to us automatically. Does anybody remember those ones that had green bars on it? But they started stealing them out of mailboxes because it has private information like your earnings history and all that in there. And so now you can get it when you log into Social Security. And you can get the number and it'll find out how much you're going to get at retirement. And so you find out you're going to get $2,500 a month at retirement. So that's $30,000. Is that an ideal total retirement income? It's better than zero. Okay, so it's $30,000. Let's say you have a small pension from some place you used to work, and it's going to pay you $833 a month. That's 10 grand a year. So that means 40 grand total. Those are guaranteed pension plans. So let's say in addition to that, from your oxen, your real estate, your 401k, and the rest, you wanted to get an additional $40,000. So an $80,000 a year retirement income. Does that make sense? 40 from Social Security and the small pension, 40 from your other oxen, your 401k, real estate, and the like. If you retire today, it says you need somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million of net worth income producing oxen. Are you fired up? Think about it. You have $1 million and it produces 8%, that's 80,000. Why do you get 40,000? Because we're assuming a 4% annual cost of living raise due to inflation. So it's a perpetual fund, okay? Who's retiring maybe in the next 10 years, about 10 years from now? Okay, let's look at that. At 4% annual inflation, you need around $59,201 to buy what 40 can buy today. And you need between $750,000 and $1.5 million in net worth income producing oxen. You fired up now? Who's under 30? Who's under 30? All right, get fired up. Here we go. You're going to need $192,000 a year to buy what 40,000 can buy today. And you need 2.4 to 4.8 million. Let's pray. No, isn't that awesome? Okay, so let's wrap it up with compound interest. We have a more detailed calculator on our website as well. Proverbs 13:11 says, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. Who's glad it says little by little? I am so glad. Okay, so watch this. If you invested $100 a month for 40 years and got 12% growth, now the S&P 500 has averaged 11.41%. That's a compound annual growth rate from January 1, 1941. The Investment Company of America Mutual Fund from American Funds, since January 1, 1934, its compound annual growth rate is 12.1%. Okay, this is not a bank savings account. It's an investment. Could be a real estate investment. But $100 a month times 12 months, that's $1,200 times 40 years, that's 48 grand. Do you know what that'd be worth? Write this down on page number 10, I think it is. It's $1,176,477. Right there. You put in 48 grand, but it's $1,176,477. Is that crazy? Okay, so watch this. You start investing $100 and it's earning 12% a year. So 1% of 1 month of that is 1%. You get $1 on your $100. Is that type 1 or type 2 income? Did you work for it or not work for it? You didn't work for it. It's type 2. Okay, put in another 100. You have $201. Now what's 1% of 201? $2 and a penny. Where'd the penny come from? They're paying interest on the dollar they gave you last month. Isn't that awesome? They give you money for the money they gave you. That's why it's called compound interest. If you have automatic dividend reinvestment in your retirement accounts, that's exactly what's happening here. Their oxen are birthing more oxen for you. And you get to 1 year in, you're up $68.25 over what you put in here. And I can tell you what broke thinking says is, Joe, I would rather spend the $1,200 than make $68. But what I would tell you is what the farmer knows: don't eat your seed. If you eat the seed, there is no harvest, right? So listen, those of you who are under 30, you have this benefit of time. But the problem with time is you'll say, I have time. And so you'll say, I'll just wait 10 years. Well, let's look at year 30. Year 30, you're at 350,000, right? 10 years later, it's 1,176,477. Think about it. In 10 years' time, you invest $12,000. So you avoided investing $100 a month, $12,000, and you think, oh, I made a $12,000 decision, a $100 a month decision. But 40 years later, you find out you made not a $12,000 decision, you made an $827,000 decision. Is that crazy? And I can tell you, when I ran these numbers and I was just coming out of college, I thought this stuff seemed like fantasy land. I'm 48. I've been investing for 26 years. I've been investing more than 100. And let me tell you, all this stuff is true. And so I encourage you, get started. And the last thing to write down there, it's on page 10, is there is no harvest if you do not invest. And the opposite is true. When you invest, you can expect a harvest. And so we want you to be able to prosper. And so that is why Fully Funded Life, scan this again. I hope this works. I want everybody to get this opened up here so that it works. Please work. I'm going to move the table without, well, I don't want to take it off the presentation because it's connected here. My beloved laptop. It's only been coffee spilled on it 4 times. No joke. This one has survived. 2 others have not. But I'm not giving up the coffee. Okay? And so, Pastor, will you come up here real quick? So, is it working? Huh? Fail? Why is it working on mine? It's working on yours? Yeah, it's the exact same one. Oh, it's working on hers now. We're going to work on it. Oh, when you click submit, it says that? Okay, then go back to the site, scan this, or just go to fullyfunded.life. Just go to fullyfunded.life and log in with the credentials you created. That's a problem. Jeez Louise.
We'll figure it out one way or the other. We're doing something Sunday, so don't worry about it.
I'm going to try to log in and create an account. My name is Bob Sangl. My email, boom. Submit. Security check failure. Gosh. Hey, I'm sorry. We're going to email this to you and have it fixed by tomorrow morning. I'm sending it to Stephanie now. The registration page is failing. Everyone here at the point right now. This is what happens when they type in their registration information. Okay, so Stephanie will respond. All right, but anyhow, stand here for a second. One of the things that I talked about is oxen.
Yes, sir.
And when I was looking at the Chinese New Year a little while ago, they said it was the year of the ox. And I invest in silver.
Okay.
And so I bought a pile of silver oxen coins. And so I have one here.
Yeah, good.
and it has the queen on the front, and it's from the mint in